Update: am I the a-hole for accidentally telling my fiancé I hate his sister and she won't be part of my wedding? Original post: I, 26 female, have been with my fiancé Chris, 26 male, for 4 years now. He and his sister, 21 female Lilac, are very close. They had a pretty traumatic childhood and always promised each other to be there no matter what. Lilac is a good sister to him, but as a person, truthfully, I can't stand her. She is literally the textbook definition of a bubbly blonde. She's overly charismatic, always giggling, and in general just acts too immature for my taste. She likes to pull pranks every once in a while on my fiancé, and he gets her back, but the whole ordeal just seems childish and obnoxious to me. Ever since we got engaged, I knew I didn't want her in my wedding party because that means I'd have to spend time with her at my bachelorette and other parties. Fast forward to last night, and my fiancé asks me when I plan on asking Lilac to be a bridesmaid. I got quiet and truthfully said I didn't plan on doing so. This upset him because he wants his sister to be a part of the most important day of his life, and that if I didn't do it, he was going to make her a groomswoman to make sure she is included. I can't lie, this sets me off. I went off about how I want to feel respected by him and be able to enjoy my wedding day. He said he also wants to enjoy his day, which to be fair, I understand. This is where I may be the a-hole. I told him that I have always disliked his sister and wished he would just not include her for once on a day that isn't even about her. He got quiet and went into our guest room to be alone. A couple of minutes later, I got a text from Lilac that she completely respects my decision to not want her in the wedding party, but she's hurt to know what I actually feel about her. I didn't want her to find out at all, and now he's told his whole family about our argument. Half of them are attacking me and half of them are saying it's my day, so I should be able to enjoy it. Honestly, this whole ordeal is stressful for no reason because Lilac isn't even upset. I don't want her in my wedding party, yet the whole family is upset and my fiancé has been very short with me all day. Am I the a-hole? Edit: just because I hate her personality doesn't mean I'm mean to her. Being around her drains my social battery, but I have never been mean to her, nor did I want her to find out ever, especially in this way. I'm just super introverted and our personalities collide. I don't want her at my bachelorette party because I want to enjoy it fully and not feel anxious the whole time because the personification of a human firecracker is attending. Now for the top comments before reading the updates. You're the a-hole. I didn't want her at my wedding party because that means I'd have to spend time with her at my bachelorette and other parties. Boy, do I have some bad news about what's going to happen if you actually marry her brother and legally bind yourself to him and his family for the foreseeable future. To be clear, you're free to not want her in your wedding party, but if she's going to be your sister-in-law, you might have to get over your distaste of blondes who've, checked list, been bubbly and happy. Don't worry, she may be able to avoid Lilac permanently. The fiancé is rethinking this wedding as we speak. We can only hope Opie is correct, and our fiancé sees this post despite the anonymous accounts and changed names. He needs to understand just how toxic Opie's behavior is, so he'll finally call off the engagement and break up with her. I agree. While it is okay not to like someone in your partner's family if there's a good reason for it. My mom doesn't like her sister-in-law because it always has to be about her. My sister's wedding, my grandma tried to convince my sister to do something special for my aunt so she doesn't feel left out. Opie literally has no reason to not like her. It seems like Lilac is genuinely a good person, and knowing that Opie doesn't like her probably really hurt her. Just because someone is always in a good mood doesn't mean you should hate them. This is like insanely toxic behavior. Also, I would like to point out that just because she acts all bubbly and cheery doesn't mean that she actually is all the time. Opie mentioned a traumatic childhood. This might be sister-in-law's coping mechanism. Even if it wasn't, being annoyed at someone else's positive outlook is a you problem. Opie also mentioned that sister-in-law seemed okay with all this, but I really don't think she is. And that's a testament to her love and devotion to her brother, unlike Opie who only cares about herself. You're the a-hole. So, she's happy and enjoying life, and this bothers you? Might want to do some inward reflections there, bud. You're the a-hole. It's your fiancé's wedding too. It's not all about you. Now for the first update. I am probably going to make this my only update for a while, if not ever. We talked this morning. Sorry for not posting it earlier. My Wi-Fi company has been having some issues. We are still not resolved. He doesn't just want her as a groomswoman, but wants to ask her to be the best woman. Best man, but as a woman. This is still not resolved because I'm not comfortable with that. And it's more stressful because the whole family has turned into flying monkeys. Because his sister is the apple of their eyes, so they took what I said as a serious attack against her. Second update. He called me about 2 hours ago. He is currently staying at Lilac's and asked if we could talk. I obliged, and it was a very difficult talk to say the least. I asked him to come home, and he rejected. Firstly, he apologized for telling his family and said it was a rash mistake he made in the heat of the moment. Then he said that if I wasn't willing to have her as a bridesmaid, that it isn't fair of me to ask him to not have her as his best woman, and that he is not willing to compromise his sister's role in our wedding. This made me cry and tell him that I am tired of feeling second place next to another woman, and that I was going to be his wife, so I wanted to feel like he had my back when I needed him. This really upset him, and he said that as Lilac's big brother, he is also supposed to have her back when she needs him. And she needs him now when the supposed love of his life is blindsiding him with hurtful information about her. He told me that it was true. He does put Lilac first in some situations, and he won't stop because he raised her. He said it's not fair of me to ask to always be number one. She is like his daughter. He said that he is willing to go to couples counseling, but first I need to apologize to Lilac for what I said, and stop griping over the fact he wants her as his best woman. The call was filled with lots of tears, and we finally decided to give it a rest and talk tomorrow so that we could both process what was going on. Now for the third and final update. So it's been a week and I feel like it might be okay to do an update now. Just to not waste anyone's time? Yes, me and Chris are no longer together. After our initial fight, he decided to stay with his sister, and through that, Lilac ended up reaching out to me and apologizing for ruining our relationship and her family hounding me for what I said. She invited me out for brunch the following day so we could talk things over, and it went well. The conversation was very long, so I just want to include important points. I apologized to her for taking out my feelings on her, because he is the one who allows her to disrespect our relationship. And she apologized for not coming directly to me to make sure I wasn't uncomfortable about anything that she was doing. I also said that while what I said was true, it was harsh, and I never wanted her to know how I felt. She told me I had nothing to apologize for and that she wasn't expecting me to like her. Just be kind to her. She also told me that if the wedding did continue, she would stay out of both bride/groom sides out of respect for my wishes. Now on to that. Yes, as I said in the beginning, Chris and I are no longer a couple. He stayed with Lilac for most of the week and invited me out for dinner the other night. During dinner, I offered the prospect of postponing the wedding and seeking couples counseling. Firstly, he apologized for running off to his family during our argument. But he denied couples counseling and said that while he will continue therapy to fix his trauma bond with his sister, it was not something he wanted to do with me. He said that even if he does completely heal himself, that he wants someone in his life who loves his family, specifically his sister as much as he does. He said he truly loves me, but that we are not the best match for each other. He told me I was more than welcome to keep the ring, and because our current home is under his name, he told me that he would give me 2 months to move out and would be happy to extend it if I was having a hard time. This obviously hurt a lot, so I've spent a lot of my time trying to heal and find an apartment. So yeah, that's the update. Other than having a personality Opie doesn't click with, and the ex being a worrywart, I don't see Lilac having done anything wrong. Certainly nothing to apologize for. If anything, it sounds like Lilac was trying to accommodate Opie while bending over backwards. She sounds like a people pleaser, which likely comes from the trauma she had suffered as a kid. Lilac also sounded way more mature than what Opie ever described her as. I wonder if it was just simple resentment for the fact Lilac was such a big part of the fiancé's life from having to basically help raise her as a teenager/young adult, that Opie just amplified any small things in her head. At least Opie doesn't seem to be hating on Lilac all that much here, and is starting to realize where she may have been mistaken. He is the one who allows her to disrespect our relationship. Sounds like she blames both of them. I just don't see how she is disrespecting her brother's relationship. It's all very odd. I think these comments help explain that it's not just his sister. Opie also dislikes his extroverted friends and how her ex liked to spend his weekends. They're just incompatible. Question? To save your relationship, you need to get over your jealousy of his sister. You know that because of their childhood there's baggage there. Has his relationship with his sister caused him to neglect you? You said when she needs something, he's always there for her. Is this causing him to bail on you? Her answer? He has never bailed on me during important moments for her. But if he has a choice between staying in on a Saturday night with me or going out with her and his friends, he chooses the latter. Question: You sound jealous of her. Answer: I don't understand why this point keeps being brought up. Yes, his sister is probably one of the prettiest people I've ever met, but I'm not jealous. He has friends who are unattractive and I dislike them equally because they have similar personalities to her. My best very forgiving guess here is this. Opie doesn't see her negative feelings as jealousy. From the way she worded the last comment, she doesn't see jealousy as a feeling that can be applied to anything other than physical looks. She can't accept that those negative feelings have an ugly name, because she doesn't view her selfishness as wrong. I'm not as forgiving as you are. Opie sounds like a terrible person who thinks being introverted or a homebody is who you are as a person. It absolutely is not. She is jealous, resentful, and extremely selfish. Even the way she's wording things. She's not saying, "I'm sorry for saying those terrible things about you" to Lilac. She's saying, "I never wanted you to find out." Gross. I'm glad Chris figured this out before getting married. People like Opie don't change at all or evolve as people often. Edit: Just read some of the removed posts. Holy cannoli. Opie's a garbage human being. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for not showing up to my own engagement after finding out my boyfriend was planning to propose? I, 28 female, have known for a while that boyfriend 38 male was going to propose. We've been talking about marriage, rings, etc. for a while. I didn't know the when or where, but I thought I knew the how. This is because I've made it clear that I would absolutely hate a public proposal. The very idea gives me hives and makes me queasy with anxiety. It's a personal preference/comfort zone thing and not an opinion on other people's proposals. There have been a few times when I thought he was going to ask, but I was wrong each time. Wasn't too disappointed because I knew it would come eventually. The night of the conflict was my birthday last week. We were going out to celebrate and he'd even given me my gift early to wear to dinner, since it was the first time we'd be going out for my birthday since pre-COVID. We were meant to meet at a restaurant, but my dad called before I left, asking if our big announcement tonight was baby-related, and if so, he'd like to congratulate me in advance in case he didn't make it due to a travel delay. A few minutes into the call, I put two and two together and immediately called my best friend who reluctantly confirmed my fears. She hadn't wanted to spoil boyfriend's surprise, but she also tried her best to convince him to scale it down because she knew I wouldn't like what he'd planned. At this point, I was very late and my boyfriend had been texting, saying that I was going to make us lose our reservation. I called him and asked directly if he was planning a public proposal. He couldn't deny it, and after he told me he'd reserved the entire restaurant for 75 people, I told him that this wasn't what I wanted, and that I'd be happy to attend, but only if he promised not to do it in front of everyone there. He said he'd told some people and that word got around, and they were now expecting a proposal, so he was going to do it. Otherwise, we would have wasted everyone's time and money coordinating and getting them down there. I said that if he insisted on doing this in a way which made me uncomfortable, I wouldn't be coming at all. I hung up at that point and stopped answering because I was hurt. He's livid and we've been fighting all week because I embarrassed him in front of our friends and family by not showing up. He says I'm making a big deal of it when we both know I would have said yes, and that I'm being ungrateful because any other woman would kill for a boyfriend who would go through the trouble to make a grand gesture. While I agree that I had every intention of saying yes when I knew it was coming, I don't like being put on the spot or being made to feel obligated to say yes because of an audience. He said he won't consider proposing again until I apologize for embarrassing him and promised to chill out about my preferences in the future. I don't feel like I should, because I knew I would have preferred something more intimate and romantic. Now for the top comments. Your boyfriend is the a-hole. He knows you aren't comfortable with this but decides to do it anyway because it makes him look good. Instead of treating you like your own person, he decides that you are just a part of the perfect proposal that could be to anyone. Not gonna lie, if this happened to me, I'd go, wait for it, say no and leave. I hate being put in the center of attention, but I'm also really petty. And if you do it to me, I'll make you regret it. Now that's the level of pettiness I wish to aspire to. I'm similarly distasteful of being the center of attention, and if a future partner ever proposed to me in front of a crowd like that, it would be a neon sign pointing to just how little they actually knew me. Red flags. You were not the a-hole, and honestly, you should seriously consider using this as an opportunity to rethink this relationship. There's already a significant age difference, but the fact that he went out of his way to ignore your feelings and discomfort should be alarming you right now. And on top of that, he's mad at you for not humiliating yourself for his stupid pride? Nah, this is just a sample of what life would be like married to him. Once that certificate gets signed, he will start imposing his will on you even more and will continue to ignore your distress. He knew this would be distressing and physically hurt you, but he did it anyway, and he was only considering his own feelings. If he really loved you, he would have proposed in a manner that would be comfortable and enjoyable for you. Then you could have had an engagement party later to celebrate with friends and family. But no, he wanted it his way regardless of the harm it would cause to you. You should seriously think about that. Second this, he knows your priorities and deliberately crossed this boundary, even contacting your family behind your back. Then he blamed you for embarrassing him and he demanded an apology. These are serious red flags. Best to rethink this relationship. You're probably seeing his real self for the first time. The typical jerk pattern is to be on their best behavior when a relationship starts, then cross boundaries and double down after they think they've got a commitment. And on top of demanding an apology for his mess, he has the nerve to add and promise to chill out about your preference in the future? Excuse me, what? Yeah, that's just a big no. Update. Am I the a-hole for kicking out my mother-in-law in the middle of the night? Original story. Some background. I, 32 male, and my wife, 25 female, have been together for 5 years and married for 3 and are expecting our son right now. We have our ups and downs. When we first got together, because I was fresh out of a horrible relationship and I was her first boyfriend. But I had always noticed that she was really demeaning about herself, and she was always really disappointed in herself. And this was just 6 months into our relationship, and it hurt to see her like that since she's an amazing woman. I convinced her to go to therapy for her, and we would do couple therapy because I did really love her in a short amount of time. And during therapy, I learned that her parents were narcissists who only loved her brother, their golden child. And when she relayed the mistreatment she faced, I honestly cried. And that whole experience made us the strong couple we are today, and the strong woman she is today. Back to present. My mother-in-law and father-in-law have gotten a little better over the years, which is why we are at low contact from our no contact position. My mother-in-law came to visit us. They live overseas, since my wife is pregnant. And it has been only a week and my wife's mood is completely dimmed. This happened at night when we were sleeping. My wife went to get some juice since she was craving it while I went to the washroom, and came back to see glass on the floor and my mother-in-law shouting at my wife. I couldn't handle my anger and shouted at her to get out, and told her if she didn't, I was gonna call the police, so she begrudgingly got out of the house. I calmed my wife down, and she told me mother-in-law had gotten mad at her because she wanted to drink apple juice because it's bad for the baby, and how she doesn't deserve to have a baby if she wanted to kill it. I'm now getting calls from her family saying I'm an a-hole because I kicked her out, and I even got a call from my parents saying it was an a-hole move, and I could have let her stay the night. I understand I might be the a-hole because I kicked her out in the middle of the night, but at that moment, looking at my wife shaking, it was the best option. So Reddit. Am I the a-hole? Edit. For people asking me about what kind of apple juice my wife was drinking in the messages, she was drinking natural apple juice, which she makes herself from fresh apples, not the one from the market. And now for the top comments before reading the update. So much not the a-hole. Go back to no contact, unless you want this kind of behavior around your baby. I agree wholeheartedly. OP's in-laws have not proven capable of introspection, so at the very least, it's time for at least absolute minimal contact. Put them on an info diet. Be a grey rock. Establish firmer boundaries now. Not the a-hole. Your in-laws are toxic people. I'm proud of you for protecting your wife from their garbage. They don't deserve a place in your family's life. Thank you. For a second, I did really believe that they were getting better, not being toxic. But that was just a lie, I guess. The only way mother-in-law's behavior that night is only even 10% okay is if your wife was drinking an entire huge bottle of straight whiskey. Apple juice is perfectly fine for an expecting mother. Not the a-hole. It sounds like your mother-in-law really only came over to control your wife and what she does during her pregnancy. If she didn't want to get kicked out, she should have acted like, oh, I don't know, a respectable human being? Not the a-hole. Who says that to a pregnant woman? Over juice? She's lucky you didn't tell her to go screw herself. And now for the update. Thank you to everyone who responded to my post, and thank you to everyone who voted not today Hall, because I was really conflicted for a few days after the incident. And I also agree that I could have controlled my anger better. A lot has happened since I posted. Me and my wife went to therapy, where she told me the reason she accepted her mother's request to come was because she saw how her mom treated her brother's kids. So she wanted that for our son too, and she really did believe that her mother had changed for the better. But as explained by our therapist, that some narcissists refuse to change. My wife and I have written one letter and sent it to every one of her family member who had told us we were in the wrong, which basically said that her mother never cared for her and never would, and we didn't want that around our children. Then my wife wrote about several instances where she was subjected to emotional abuse, and even though everyone knew, no one did anything except for her grandma, her father's mother. She said she's tired of always being the bigger person, but now she would be selfish for herself and our child. And if anyone disagrees, they're welcome to cut contact, as she wouldn't miss people like that in her life. Something which shocked both of us was when her father called and asked what happened, and she narrated everything. Her father, being the typical narcissist, tried to gaslight, but with my support and her therapy, she put her foot down and asked her father if he had ever cared about her, because it never felt like they did. She narrated every instance from her childhood to her adulthood where she was subjected to emotional abuse, and how her brother always came before her. Her dad was silent throughout the call. And in the end, all my wife said that for her currently, she doesn't have parents, and hung up. By the end, all my wife did was cry, and I cried with her. I also called my parents, asking how they could not take my side knowing the history because they really love my wife, which is why it was hard listening I'm in the wrong. And they told me that it was because her mother had called them in hysterics, and told I was physical with her. I was not. After learning the truth from me, they came over to apologize, and my mother held my wife. I am an only child, so I and my wife are everything to them. I would like to point out that we're in the metropolitan area, and there are plenty of hotels, so I wasn't worried about my mother-in-law finding a hotel. She's loaded. Money isn't an issue. For now, we are just waiting for the little one to be born, and my wife is much happier and free from her toxic family. Great to hear that things are resolving the way they likely should. I hope your parents never side against you like that again. They had no reason to believe mother-in-law's horrible account that their own son was an abuser. That part is the biggest betrayal for me out of all of this, as wife's parents are already known narcissists. Yeah, that concerned me how all it took was one hysterical call, and his parents instantly believed her despite knowing about her and her past. While that response definitely gets a side-eye, it's actually not that uncommon. A lot of people who don't have experience with toxic people have a really vague and inaccurate idea of what that behavior looks like. Even if they understand consciously mother-in-law's an a-hole and has been very horrible in the past, they don't really get how manipulative they can be, or how casually/easily they lie. So the parents receive a phone call in the middle of the night from a hysterical mother-in-law, claiming Opie got physical. Even though they've been warned, they instinctively believe it because they can't wrap their heads around someone who can turn hysterical crying on and off like a tap, or why someone would lie about something that extreme and easily disproved. Hopefully they're quick learners and appropriately apologetic, but it's worth remembering that people like the mother-in-law use those kinds of manipulative tactics because they're super effective at short-circuiting people's logical defenses and getting them on their side. This almost makes me glad I have the experience I do with narcs and their tactics, but I hate that anyone should have to deal with said narcs and tactics in the first place. Good on both of you for sticking to your guns and getting all this out in the open. Narcissists thrive on partial information. By sharing this with everyone in your extended family, it puts the mom in the spotlight where it will be a lot harder to get away with it. Congrats on making it through. I had a mother like that. I left home and went no contact when I was 17. It took me until I was 30 to make that stick. The longing for a loving parent is strong. Between those years, I let my mother back in 3 to 4 times. I couldn't give up on her. The first time, it took about 3 months for me to shut her out again. The last time, it took about an hour. As I got healthier mentally, it was easier to see the inappropriate behavior and shut it down. My mother had some epic meltdowns. So you aren't finished yet. Be vigilant. Be supportive. Don't expect perfection from your wife. She will falter, but expect her to handle things better each time. She will get there. And tell your wife a week is impressive. She snapped out of it faster than most. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for kicking my sister out of my home after she told me it was karma that I can't have kids? I, female 32, have been trying to get pregnant for 7 years now and have been unsuccessful. Diagnosed with PCOS later in life, I've had 5 miscarriages that have taken a massive toll on my physical and mental health. It has left me feeling like a massive failure as my partner, male 36, desperately wants children and I'm unable to give him this. He never makes me feel badly about it, but I know he's upset. His parents are in ill health and they want grandchildren more than anything. Recently, I had a massive argument with my sister, female 34, after my last miscarriage. I was upset and asking her why this kept happening to me. She shrugged and said it was probably to do with the abortion I had when I was 19. Honestly, I was gobsmacked at how nonchalant she sounded. She knew there had been health reasons behind it and had been supportive at the time. My health has been so poor that I needed an operation and had spent months recovering. Also, she knows how guilty I felt that I was unable to carry it to full term. I asked her what she had meant, and she said that our decisions always come back to haunt us and that I needed to understand that I'd brought it on myself. That some people just weren't meant to have children, and it was God's way of telling us to stop. She wasn't being mean, just blunt, but my hormones were all over the place, and I ended up kicking her out of my house and telling her not to contact me again. Soon after, I got loads of phone calls from my other sister, mom and dad, and even my sister's husband, basically saying I had overreacted and was being a a-hole, that I had to make things right and apologized. I refused and haven't spoken to any of them since. My partner doesn't want her back in our house anytime soon after what she said. Am I the a-hole for agreeing with him over my family? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. You don't ever say something like that to someone. If she wasn't on the lease or paying rent at all, you have every right to kick her out. She's an adult. She can figure out her own living situation without having to room with people she thinks so lowly of. By the way, I'm so sorry you're having difficulties. I wish you all the best in the future for a large, happy family. If she wasn't on the lease or paying rent at all, you have every right to kick her out. That's the thing. I don't think the sister was even living with Opie at all. The vibe I got from this is that she was merely visiting, especially because sister's husband was also mentioned. All this hullabaloo from the family over making her leave a house she was visiting. I couldn't tell if it meant a roommate or guest situation and didn't want to assume, but her not being on a lease covers both bases. Person on the lease can kick out whoever they want if she's just a guest. Either way, she is a massive and manipulative a-hole who probably told a way different story to the family to act like she didn't say something completely atrocious to warrant getting the boot in the first place. Not an a-hole times 1,000. She is evil and completely lacking empathy towards you. Don't apologize. Don't take anything back and keep her out and anyone who takes her side. Our decisions always come back to haunt us, and that I needed to understand that I'd brought it on myself. That some people just weren't meant to have children. I think Opie needs to tell her family that our decisions always come back to haunt us, and that sister needs to understand that she's brought this on herself. Some people just weren't meant to be allowed in Opie's house. OMG, this is absolutely perfect. What kind of deranged monster is the sister? And she has a damn cheek to bring God into it too, which tells me she is one of those pseudo-Christian a-holes. Well, she may not be allowed to back in Opie's house, but I'm sure she will be welcomed to hell with open arms. Not a-hole. A miscarriage is not something you should try and guilt a woman about. That's messed up. She was out of line. Last story is titled, Am I the a-hole for not helping my brother get his kids into the same school as my son? My brother, 34 male, and I, 29 female, are not close. We see each other once or twice a year at most, despite living 30 minutes from each other. We both have kids the same age. My older son is the same age as his daughter. So back when my husband and I had our oldest, we talked about where we wanted him to go to school. Option A was the school we were zoned to at the time and it was okay, but with plenty of people who hated it. Option B was not super popular at the time. It was seen as a less than perfect choice by most for being less bothered with grades, according to several reviews. But for us, it was perfect. They had great teacher reviews from parents of kids going there. Kids adored it, and their policies were ones we really liked. So we made the choice to move to get into the zone for School B. Once our son started school, we had no regrets. Back then, my brother thought we were dumb and talked crap about the school choices. I remember seeing him that Christmas and him saying it was lazy parenting to not consider grades over everything else. Right now, he is eating his words, and it's the most we've talked in probably 20 years if I'm being honest. He reached out back in January to say how his kids hated school and how he and his wife were having a hard time with teachers and things like that. He mentioned trying to get the kids into the same school my son was going to. There was a layer of aggression in everything. Like, screw you for having it better. He started texting and telling me this stuff a lot. And then in April, he told me that he got rejected because of the district, and he ranted a bit about how much we sucked, etc., to the point where I hung up on him. It was after that point he asked me if he could use my address to enroll the kids there. I told him I would need to think about it. My husband and I discussed it, and we said no. Our reasons were neither of us wanted to deal with seeing and hearing more from him. Because while everything is emailed, we also get regular snail mail for certain things too throughout the year, and that would require more contact than neither of us wanted with him. I told him it wouldn't work for us, and when he asked why, I told him we have never been good, and we don't need to keep the conflict up by staying in touch more. My brother is pissed and has been pissed for months. I had to block him in WhatsApp, where he was texting and calling me, and I ended up leaving our family group chats because he was airing his stuff there. He called me Nehal, said I was selfish, that I should put the kids first. And at first, everyone was more on my side, but now others seem to think it wouldn't hurt and that putting the kids first should be the priority of a non-a-hole. So now I ask, am I the a-hole? Not an a-hole. Depending where you are, it's a crime to say you live at a place so you can enroll your kids in a better school. Even if it was legal, you don't owe him anything. OP, not only it is illegal, but your kid is registered in that school at that address. It seems pretty inevitable that the school will eventually put two and two together, and then you'll be open to possible prosecution. Possibly your kid being kicked out of the school. That's what I'd tell him and family. Not the a-hole. I was thinking this as I wrote my comment above. Given the OP is a woman and her kids might have a different last name than her brother's kids, they would almost undoubtedly question why two sets of kids with different last names reside at the same address. Not the a-hole. It's true that kids should be primarily the concern for parents and family, but your brother and his condescending and horrible behavior is the roadblock here, not you and your decision to limit contact with him. Also, if this is public school in the US, this may be residency fraud. I don't know what penalties might be for parties involved, but it's a risk that you really shouldn't have to take. Your brother's kids have options besides making you commit fraud. He can find another school or he could move into another district. Could also be less of an a-hole and work on being a caring and supportive family member. There was a residency fraud case locally a while back, and the parents ended up on the hook for the cost of schooling. I can't remember the exact number, but it was thousands of dollars. Update. My mother, 52 female, cheated and left me, 27 male, and our family to work in the adult industry, but now wants to come back and be my mom again. Original story. To give some context, my dad, 67 male, used to travel a lot to work and stay weeks away, so he and my mother had an arrangement where they had an open marriage. Don't know the details, but she was the only one that slept with other people. This happened to most of my childhood, as I can remember her leaving at night to go to clubs and parties, sometimes taking days to come back and neglecting me and my brother. I learned how to get groceries and cook when I was 8, so me and my brother would not starve. When I was around 13, my parents started fighting. Since apparently she had broken the deal in some way, my dad found out about the neglect and she started going into the adult industry. They separated, and for years I had no contact with my mother. I sent her texts and emails, some that even popped up as she had seen it, but she never replied. So one day I just gave up trying to contact her. I managed to stay in contact with some people from her side of the family, but a lot of them began hating on us, saying that we were too harsh on her, that we never supported her, that she did well leaving us, and gradually I also cut contact with them as well. She started working in the adult industry and got pretty famous in my country, got a lot of money, and I stopped using any adult websites as she was on the top pages of all of them. I gladly suffered zero to no bullying in high school because of it, as there were no ways of connecting her to me, and most of my friends that knew my mother didn't know it was her. She had dyed her hair, done a few surgeries and stuff. Well, I moved on with my life, joined the army, and I'm pretty well now. However, a year ago, out of nowhere she found me in social media and began to message me, asking how I was, commenting on how much I had grown up and trying to do some small talk. I just replied with one-word answers and even stopped replying once my nerve got the best of me. Apparently, she has retired, and after feeling an overwhelming remorse throughout her entire life, decided to contact us again. My brother was also careful, but essentially accepted her back. He was always close to her. My father is cordial with her, but only that. She has also asked her entire part of the family for help, as I began being bombarded with messages and calls from both those that criticized and supported me and my dad. I made it clear that I do not want anything to do with her, but they just keep on it, saying that she is remorseful, that she made a mistake but wants to make it right, that she has come back for us, etc. More recently, she somehow found out where I live, and I've been receiving random gifts at my doorstep with messages that were clearly hers. Things like a basket of chocolate that I liked when I was little, expensive clothes, she got my size wrong on all of them, flowers when my cat passed away, and even a very expensive hiking kit. I messaged her a few times to say that I don't want any of that, but she just pretends she doesn't know what I'm talking about, or just says she thought of me at that moment. I made it clear time and time again that I don't want anything to do with her, but she still persists, saying that she can be my mom again now and stuff like that. I don't know what else to say, so any advice is more than welcome. Now for the top advice before reading the update. I'm sorry, Opie. I'm sure it was difficult growing up without her and knowing what she was doing. She's probably remorseful now because she's growing older and she doesn't have any meaningful relationships in her life. She has her extended family, but not one of her own, and that's 100% her fault. She can be as remorseful as she wants, but too bad, so sad. It wasn't your decision to lock you out of her life. It was hers. Similarly, it's now your decision whether you want to let her back into your life, not hers. The tables have flipped. Some suggestions if you decide don't want a relationship with her. She will continue to love bomb you to try to get you to respond. Moving forward, I would ignore any communication from her. Don't contact her when gifts arrive. Keep them, give them away, etc. Just don't acknowledge them. And when she says she can be your mom again now, tell her that ship has sailed. You're no longer a child, and do not need or want one that abandoned you. Be blunt and cold. After that, do not respond to any communication. Block her on all social media platforms and set your profile to private. Indicate to your brother that you want to be no contact with her. If she shows up to a gathering, you're free to leave. If she persists enough, take legal action to force her to stop. If she shows up at your house, feel free to not answer the door. You've made it clear you don't want to see her. I wish you the best, Opie. In addition to this advice, if you have any of the family that has been harassing you for her on your social media, make sure to remove/block them and be careful how much detail about your life that you provide to anyone that might be in contact with her. That will be harder if it's your dad or brother sharing information with her. And to expand on the no contact ever point, they're saying never respond for a very specific reason. When people are trying to get you to talk to them again and you respond for any reason, all that teaches the other person is what it takes to get you to respond. My social media is pretty much memes and cute animal pictures, but yeah, I had to ditch my Facebook and do another one because of some people on her family. I don't know if my brother is sharing information, but I'm sure my dad is not. Thanks for the tip. No matter their insistence, I'm not responding. You are under no obligation to allow her back into your life. Block her again, and her family, and dump all of the gifts she gives you. Stop entertaining her attention. If she still will not stop, I'd honestly recommend going to the legal route. Get a cease and desist letter sent out to her and her family, and if that doesn't stop it, go to the police to get her harassment on file so it'll be easier to file a police report/restraining order in the future. I have donated or sent back all of the gifts already. Unfortunately, cease and desist letters are not a thing in my country, but I'm really thinking about filing a police report for harassment. Just don't know if they will accept since she never did it personally. I hate stuffs like this. Parents who legit abandon their child for years, and just because they suddenly feel guilty, aka they have nothing better to do, they expect their now grown children to just pick up where they left off? Really? The audacity and freaking entitlement. I'm so sorry you're in this horrible predicament. You don't owe this woman a damn thing. Not a damn thing. She feels overwhelming remorse? Oh, boo-hoo. She made her bed, and now she needs to permanently lay in it. Those other family members who are hounding you can pound sand and buzz off. Block them. Where the hell were they when she abandoned you? For all those gifts she's hurling at you, don't acknowledge them. Don't return to sender either. She's wanting a reaction, any and all reaction from you. She's desperate for your attention, and she will take it, good or bad. Don't feed into that black hole. Toss them into the trash and forget about it. Don't text her back, just ignore her. Block her everywhere and change your phone number. Expect this to escalate. If she doesn't get it, is persistent, and she realizes she's not getting anything back from you, she may just show up at your doorstep. If that happens, don't open the door and call the cops for trespassing. Cease and desist. You've made a good life for yourself. Don't let her back into your life. Good luck, Opie. Plus, all the do-gooder a-holes were enabling her because family. Someone you know told her your address. They could be acting as a spy. And now for the update. First, I would like to thank everyone that commented giving me some comfort, advice, or letting me unwind on their DMs. You all helped me a lot. I'm still trying to answer all of the comments and messages, but with work and family craziness reaching new heights, that might take some time. But know that your words are very appreciated, and I thank you all from the bottom of my heart. Well, to start the update, I decided to take the moral high ground and have a more polite approach. I know many of you wanted me to just send her to hell on a message or letter, but I thought this way would disarm much of her comebacks and maybe even make some of her family members shut up. I called her and asked me to meet me in a small cafe. No way I was meeting her in private. She got there and it looked like she had won the lottery. She had a smile from ear to ear and was almost jumping up and down, but her smile did fade when she saw my face. She sat down and tried to do some small talk, but I cut her off and began to rain on her parade. With all of the calm and patience I could gather, I told her that no matter what she does or says, there would be no way for her to be my mom again. I started to explain that she was a complete stranger to me now, that I still had resentments, reminded her that I tried many times to stay in contact with her but she refused, and even stated that I'm no longer a child. I'm almost 30, so I kind of don't need a mom anymore. Had to hold myself not to say something like, "A few years too late, huh?" I didn't even finish speaking when she burst into tears and began rambling about how sorry she was. That she was sorry for not seeing me grow up, sorry for ignoring me, that she would do anything for a second chance. She even told me that if her old work bothers me, she could have it all taken down and pay for therapy if I wanted. Apparently she didn't know I'm in therapy ever since I was a teenager. I politely refused, and since the conversation wasn't likely to progress, I just left after asking her once more to not contact me again. A couple of hours later, I was in the shower when my phone began exploding with calls and messages. She apparently once again told her family, and once again they were cursing or trying to convince me. That showed me that some of the more radical comments on my last post were somewhat right, and I decided to follow some of their advice. I swapped my phone number, also got a much better phone plan, cleaned my social media of any family members from her side, and told my lawyer to go forward with a restraining order. Thanks to the last post, I had it ready to go. Thanks again, everyone. She received the order a couple of days ago and immediately broke it by driving straight to my house to scream why I was doing that. I didn't come out and call the cops. Thankfully, they saw the restraining order and took her to the station for questioning. I was afraid they would ignore it or something, but I'm glad I was wrong. I'm now stuck here. Not sure whether what I did was 100% right, but at least I'm having some semblance of peace this last few days. She's still trying to send gifts, but I'm going legal on that too. I'm honestly not sure if there will be any more updates after this, but if it happens, I'll post on my profile due to the subreddit rules. But once again, thanks everyone. Thanks for sharing. Good luck with it all. Your relatives are horrible, man. Sorry you had to go through all that. You did the right thing. How dare she decide to come back into your life when it suited her, and when it was too late? I don't feel sorry for her. She now has to deal with the consequences of the choices she has made, which is on her. The fact that you feel guilty is a sign you are a good person who feel remorse as she forced your hand even further by coming to your house. But that doesn't mean you did the wrong thing. In fact, you have been very logical with your decisions. You should be proud of yourself with how you've dealt with things, Opie. Isn't it interesting how everyone's sorry and will do anything to have you back in their life, after they've discarded you and everything meaningful, and after they've had their fun? When people show you who they are, believe them. Sorry this happened to you. You did the right thing. Wow, I'm kinda scared to go back in your post history to find your original post. But I'm glad you stood up for yourself, and I'm glad cops are helping. Now for the last story. My female 21 ex-husband, male 33, wanted divorce when I was sick with breast cancer. 2 years later, he's starting to contact me and my dad is supporting him. My ex-husband and I were married for 3 years. Our marriage was fine until I was diagnosed with breast cancer that he helped discover when he told me about the tumor he found in my left breast. First, he was supportive and was one of the first to encourage that I start treatment as soon as possible. Once I began experiencing side effects of my chemo sessions, he started having an attitude and became increasingly distant, both physical and emotional. He got worse with time. He stopped intimacy and no longer even wanted to touch me or cuddle me. He became cold and had a temper. Certainly affected my progress as he kept giving negative energy and caused me to cry constantly though he wasn't aware. He spent most his time on his phone. Even at the hospital, he'd ignore everyone and keep staring at his phone acting like a distant relative. The final straw was when he kept rejecting me, and then saying I can't blame him for our lack of intimacy and closeness because how I looked was a turn-off for him. I knew it was over. I was ashamed to vent to anyone because I foolishly blamed myself for what happened to me. I had plans for us to have kids and buy a house, even talked about having vow renewal, but all that changed and my condition... My illness somehow made me realize that he was not who I thought he'd be in every problem we face. We got divorced shortly after I completed my treatment. I got in therapy, but I did not focus on my divorce because even with therapy, this was very raw for me and very hard to open up about, but rather gave all my attention on improving my physical and mental health. I lived with my parents for a while. Recently, my ex-husband started contacting several family members. He had and still has a good relationship with my dad, which recently became problematic to me because my dad kept bringing me messages from my ex-husband, attempting to make contact with me. My ex-husband started coming over to the house to see my dad, but then they both tried to get us to talk, but I didn't feel comfortable with it. He's never dated after our divorce and stayed close to Dad. Dad thinks my ex-husband deserves to be heard by me, and that his intentions weren't to cheat since it didn't after our separation, but clearly was more overwhelmed and incapable of handling my illness. My dad kept pushing me to hear my ex-husband out and have grace for him, but I couldn't give him a straight answer. Just kept stalling, and I don't know why. My mom says I'm still in love with my ex-husband, and I'm just angry with him and suggested therapy for us too, but I'm unsure and feel like this isn't something that can be fixed after what he said and done to me when I was sick and feeling alone, even though we were still married. Now, for the top advice. His vows were in sickness and in health. In sickness, he showed his true colors. Why does this man who broke his vows to you deserve to be heard out? To give him the chance to abandon you again? Yes, this 100%. To piggyback off this, my husband isn't the most romantic, and that kind of sucks. But he is caring and affectionate, and when my health took a turn for the worst this year, and all the things we both lost, he was there holding my hand every step of the way. Yes, it was hard on him too. It is hard on a spouse, but that doesn't justify how cold and callous he was to you. I had open and honest conversations, and the stressful part wasn't maintaining our home and child. It was the fear of losing me and not knowing what to do without me. There's a big difference, and it sounds to me he just didn't want to deal with it. It sounds like Opie has made great strides to better herself, and I would hate to see all that hard work go to waste. It's not your family's decision, it's yours. Nope. Imagine if you end up sick again. Will he leave you like the first time? Yes, he will. You need to find some way of explaining to both your parents exactly how horrible your ex treated you in your most vulnerable state. Be firm and tell them to stop interfering in your life, or you'll stop visiting them and stop talking to them. Seems like they still treat you like they're a little girl who needs guidance because you don't know your own mind. Time to correct them. Her parents are pretty damn crappy, and they shouldn't need to have this explained. A child could understand this. But yeah, you're right. He showed you exactly who he was. This wasn't a young kid. He was a grown man who started treating his sick wife like crap. Life isn't sunshine and roses. You may get sick again, and he's shown you how he will act if you do. He is not capable or interested in being there when things are rough. That's all you need to know. Update. Am I the a-hole for laughing when my brother-in-law was berating my little sister? Original post. For some background, my parents have 3 kids. Maya, 29 female, me 28 male, and Sally, 26 female. The problem is Sally. When she was born, she had some form of medical condition which led doctors to believe that she won't survive at all. But my parents never gave up. They spent money and time for her treatment, and miracle happened. Since then, they have cuddled Sally to death. Sally always had to have good things, while I mostly got my sister's hand-me-downs, which I didn't mind, but it sucks that I was the forever neglected middle child. But my sister Maya took most of it. Maya was the oldest and the scapegoat, and for some weird reasons, Sally was always in competition with her, and I am sure my parents also pitted them against each other too. Maya was always supposed to behave and never complain, while Sally was a brat. If Maya had a dollhouse, Sally had a bigger dollhouse. If Maya did something good, my parents would just say, "Good job," and go on about their life. But if Sally even won a participation trophy, they would basically throw a party. Since then, Maya has been walking on eggshells around my parents. She would always be grounded, and we cannot even complain that Sally has been bullying us because she is a special child. Sally was also awful towards me. She would often mistreat me and even steal my stuff, and my parents won't do anything. And like I mentioned, Sally was always in competition with Maya. If Maya wanted to participate in music, she would too. I remember Maya saying in high school that she has a crush. And what does Sally do? Make out with that crush in front of Maya. My parents didn't even save enough for college for either of us. But luckily for Maya, she got on a scholarship while I had to take out a loan. The last straw for Maya was when she was dating this guy in college. We'll call it Douche. She brought him home when they were on vacation, and she caught Sally and him doing it in the basement. It was a crap storm. My parents did berate Sally, but after a few days they were like, "Hey, what happened just happened. It will be wrong to separate these lovebirds." That was it for Maya. She screamed at them that she has endured their abuse for all these years, but not anymore, and cut off contact. There was a lot of tension, and some of my uncles and aunts were divided, while Sally was just as shameless as she was and went on to date Maya's ex. Maya eventually got over it and met a nice guy and got married. She did invite our parents, but not Sally. My parents didn't go, but I did. And now she's currently pregnant with her first child. My parents reached out to her, and although Maya was skeptical, she agreed to reconcile. So, our family has this big dinner once a year at their place, where all the relatives and cousins are invited. Maya came along with her husband, Adam. Sally was also there with her husband, Maya's ex. And throughout the evening, I noticed Sally tried to be closer to Adam, but he would just shove her off. When it was time for dinner, my parents made a toast, then Sally stood up and said that she was so lucky to be here, and that she almost died when she was young. Barf. She then redirected to Maya and said, "Sis, I know it must be hard for you because your ex is now my husband, but thanks for the blessing. I know it must be hard for you to be here knowing how hard it was for you to compete with me, but I applaud your bravery." This was the moment Adam stood up and shouted at Sally, saying how dare she insult his wife. Who the heck does she think she is? Then the word vomit started, and I'm just paraphrasing it. You think you are so special because you were a miracle baby. Guess what? I was a miracle baby too, but I don't complain about it like you do. You are such a pathetic woman that the only achievement in your life you have is something that was accidental. What else do you have to show for? Everything you have was basically borrowed from my wife, even your pathetic husband who spent the entire evening hitting on every female cousin in this room. You are so annoying, even your husband doesn't like you. You know what the truth is? You have nothing, and you are nothing. You are so shameless and pathetic that you try to hit on me. You already got her ex, and now you want her husband? I would rather die than be with a woman like you, whose personality is worth of a paper bag. You have always been jealous of my wife, because you always knew you would never be as amazing as she is. That's why you stole from her, because that's the only way you could have what she has. There was more, but it was so brutal that Sally was in tears. My parents and relatives were shocked. My parents then told Maya, "Well, aren't you going to do anything?" Maya just said no and left with her husband. Honestly, even my cousins were silent. I knew no one liked Sally. I, on the other hand, was laughing behind my wine glass. My mom noticed and said I'm an a-hole for laughing at my sister's misery. It has been over a week when this happened, The video of Adam's rant was circulating in our cousin's GC, and I still laugh at it. I've been low contact with them ever since, but they are getting a lot of crap for Sally. So am I the a-hole? Edit. Guys, please stop asking me for the video. I want to protect the privacy of my family. I even used fake names for that reason. I can't give you the audio as well because in my book it is a breach of privacy. Now for the top comments before reading the updates. Not the a-hole. Sounds like someone needed to say it. Does not sound like she is a remotely good person. She made her entire personality to be a miracle baby. How sad it is when you peak at birth. You get what you give. Not a-hole. Loving your brother-in-law standing up for your sister like that. Brother-in-law knows the kind of treatment Maya had to go through. She would cry often. My brother-in-law also had a rough childhood, and they are both in therapy. I think you should be awarded for not cheering and applauding. Buy brother-in-law a beer. He deserves it. Not the a-hole. I should buy him dinner because his anger was on behalf of not just my sister, but also me and other cousins who are fed up of her nonsense. Please keep us updated. Well, the update I can give you right now is that my uncle, my aunt, and every other family member who was present has berated my mom and dad too for letting it go this far. My mom and dad has blown up Maya's phone, that her husband made them look bad. Maya just texted them, well, that's cause you guys are bad. So bad that right now, no one is supporting you. Good luck hiding behind Sally. But I will visit her soon, so let's see. Now for the first update. I don't know if people will see this, but I do have a little update. I went to see my sister, Maya, and her husband today. I talked to her and asked her if she was okay, as I haven't got a chance to reach out to her after the dinner. She said she was fine, and that mom and dad has been demanding they apologize to Sally. Barf. She blocked them, because why should they apologize for the truth? They also got the support from the group chat. A lot of our cousins' parents were unaware of the incident of Sally and all the bullying. They thought since she was a miracle baby, she would be an angel. I also apologized to my brother-in-law Adam for what happened. He said sorry back because he lost his cool. He also had really toxic parents, and he basically projected his own anger on Sally. I told him it was fine, and even our cousins enjoyed it. They are making fun of Sally, and he is practically their hero right now. And as for my parents, well, they are still in denial. But I don't care anymore. They have gone too far. I mean, even a stranger sees through their BS. Yet they refuse to see the truth. They are getting a lot of heat from everyone, especially Grandma, Mom's mom, because our grandpa left her for another woman, so she takes it a big offense. Apparently, my parents lied to her about Sally's husband. They said Maya and him used to date, but broke up. I will give a full update, but right now the cousins and uncles and aunts are divided among themselves. I am really disappointed in our parents, and I hope Sally takes care of them when they are really old, because they obviously lost 2 of their kids. Sally won't take care of them. Sally will stick them in some crappy nursing home, and frankly, they'll deserve it. Brother-in-law is right. Sally had a sad life, with no accomplishments other than having survived a disease. Thank you for the updates, OB. I think you give Sally too much credit. She'll likely abandon them and they will reach out to OP and OP's sister to let them stay with them or help pay for their expenses. I'm glad you and Maya can support each other despite your parents' awful parenting. I'll guess Sally will reach out once things calm down, or in a few years playing victim and how none of this is her fault, and place all the blame on her parents. Your parents will reap what they sow at the end of their lives. By the way, good for brother-in-law for standing up to them. Your sister found a great person to end up with. Better than douche. Best wishes. Sending peace, love, abundance, and blessings to you, your sister, and your supportive family members. I am sorry you had and continue to have to deal with parents who are so dismissive and oblivious that turn abusive in nature towards you and your older sister. Mom probably knew Grandma would disown Sally. Wouldn't mind more updates. Thank you for sharing with us, and again, blessings. Update 2. Sorry for the late update, guys, but I do have one for you. Well, after I talked to Adam, he called me a few days later to ask me if I could speak to him. So I met him at his house. He made some excuses to Maya and took me someplace private. Then pulled out his phone and told me that Sally has been texting him non-stop, though he ignores her and has already blocked 3 of her accounts. The text ranges from, sorry, please talk to me, bashing Maya, calling him unworthy, then some dirty text and also provocative photos with captions. I can do it better than Maya, you know. Adam was sick of it. But I was furious. Does she have no shame? I said enough is enough. My parents need to see what kind of person Maya is. So I arranged a meeting with my parents. We didn't tell Maya because she's already pregnant. We do not want to stress her further. We sat with our parents, and before I could speak, Adam cursed right at the sight of my sister and started calling her a harlot. I asked him to calm down, and our parents are furious. But I told them they should control their miracle child because she's acting crazy, that she has been sending inappropriate messages to Adam. My parents obviously didn't believe it, so I showed them the proof and they acted like they are disgusted. Sally kept saying it is a fake account, that someone is trying to defame her. Well, Douche, Sally's husband, forcefully took her phone and discovered the messages. He was screaming and shouting at her that she curled in a ball. Douche then looked at our parents and said that, "You raised a pathetic." I also personally grilled my parents and told them they are failures. They always prioritize their golden child over the other kids. Where was their concern when their other daughter was betrayed? Would they have done the same if Sally's boyfriend was cheating on her with Maya? They have enabled Sally so much that she has become an entitled brat. They should know almost everyone in the family hates her and sick of her. Adam told them they should be ashamed of the brat they raised. They are bad parents who failed to teach morality to their child, and that is why she's after her sister. And he said, "Look at her. Can you honestly say that you are proud of your daughter? Are you proud that she is a home wrecker? Are you proud that nobody loves her and that they need to get off their high horses?" My parents didn't say anything. Lastly, I told them to get lost because me and Maya will be cutting them off. Don't even bother calling us. Their whole life they have invested in their bratty child, so they should just ask for her help when they are old. I am done with them. That is when my mom started crying, saying it is really unfair, as the whole family is shunning them. I looked at them and said, "And whose fault is that?" My dad looked pretty much defeated. I bet there were other members of the family that grilled them too and threatened to cut them off because of Sally. So yeah, that's it. Nothing big. I don't think they will learn their lesson though, but who cares? And like you guys suggested, I took Adam to a steakhouse and treated him with a fine steak. I also ordered one of those custom trophies, like you guys said, that has "World's Sassiest Brother-in-Law" written in it. Adam threatened Sally with police, so no more messages from her till now. And I have decided that I will get a place closer to Maya because she does need help from someone in the family. So that's all, folks. Reading first post, that's a sick burn. Reading updates, someone should have stuck a fork in Sally 15 minutes ago because that bird's done to a crisp. Damn, if time traveling was possible, I would go back in time, make sure I was dating Opie, so I could have front row seats for that verbal smackdown. Wow. Amateur. Date the mother, because dad sure wouldn't care. Nah, hard pass. I have standards. I'm fairly certain I've read a similar story on here where the premise started with a medical miracle baby who slept with her sister's husband. The stepsister who survived cancer, right? I wonder how that Opie's doing. Last story. Am I the a-hole for calling my older sister a bully and saying she knows our younger sister isn't intentionally saying her daughter's name differently? I am the middle child of 3 girls. Older sister is Kate, 29 female, then me 27 female, and then our younger sister Amy 26 female. Kate and I had a good relationship as kids, and so did Amy and I. But Kate always disliked Amy. I believe part of the reason is she felt embarrassed of Amy's speech issues. Amy has had trouble with her speech since she was a child. Some sounds she cannot make the same, some she is trying but they come out differently than others would say them. Her own name is actually an example. She says it like an Amy instead of Amy when we always said it was Amy. She did speech therapy as a kid and she had an IEP in school, but her speech issues never fully went away. This was always something Kate hated, and she hated hearing Amy talk. I always told Kate it wasn't Amy's fault, but Kate was just never fond of Amy. I don't want to say she hates Amy, but it sure did seem that way at times. Kate had her first baby a few weeks ago, and Amy has a very difficult time saying her name. It doesn't sound the same when she says it, but clearly she is trying. And I know she's self-conscious of it, so she tries not to say the name. She told me it's not like she will be allowed to be much of an aunt anyway, since Kate never liked her. We were at our parents' house over the weekend, and at some point Amy said our niece's name. Kate got super irritated with her that she didn't say it right. She told her it was why she never liked her. She was always rude and couldn't even put the effort into saying names right, and how glad she is she won't be around her daughter much to influence her. And who knows, maybe she just won't know who she is at all. She would be happier that way. Amy was so upset, and I was so mad at Kate. I told her she is such a bully to Amy, and she knows Amy isn't intentionally saying the name wrong. She can't help it. I told her she should be more understanding and less of a bully. Kate could not believe I was so harsh. She also couldn't believe I would side with Amy over her. I don't feel bad for defending Amy, but maybe I went too far. Kate said so. She told me she would never have called me a bully no matter what, and that I had chosen a side which was wrong. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. Kate's a bully 100%. No one wants to live life with speech problems, so it's not like Amy's doing this to spite her. She needs to chill. Yeah, it's not like she's adopting some weird accent for fun and giggles. This is a serious impediment she has to struggle through because the world outside is harsh. At the very least, her family should be a safe space. Not the a-hole. Always stand up to bullies. It's not like Amy's doing this to spite her. I kind of wonder if Kate chose the name knowing her sister would be unable to pronounce it correctly. My acquaintances were going to name their kid Aurora, but after thinking on it, they realized that no one in New England was going to pronounce all those R's properly. Kate sounds like one of those mean girls whose meanness stems from a great deal of personal insecurity, combined with the need to control everything around her. Not the a-hole. You're 100% correct in what you told Kate. The fact Amy can't even say her own name like you all do is proof. Amy is amazing for even trying to have a relationship with Kate after years of this behavior. And even recognized that she wouldn't see her niece because of Kate's issues. Where are your parents defending their youngest daughter?